Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whenever you're watching this video. Welcome back to Be Like Christ. Today we are in 1 Kings, chapter 15 for our daily Bible study. And if you want the PDF, you can download it on our website. There's a link down in the description. I will let you guys know if you follow along with these in real time on the day that they're released. I'm definitely gonna have to take a bit of a break soon. I don't know exactly how soon. I might be able to finish 1 Kings. I might not, depending on how busy we are. My wife and I have some traveling that has to happen, and so I think we'll probably take like a 2-week break. That'll prevent me from totally burning out and from having to rush Bible studies to get them out, half-baked or something like that. And so that's coming up. I am going to try to finish 1 Kings. I'd really like to do that, and then to take the break. But more updates on that soon. Now let's talk about our chapter. Chapter 15. According to the timeline that we've been using for this study, the kingdom of Israel and Judah divided around 975 BC, just after the death of Solomon. The period that followed is sometimes called the period of the divided kingdom, and that lasted several centuries. Israel remained a cohesive nation from 975 until about 721 BC, when they were taken into Assyrian captivity. The Assyrians conquered them, basically. Judah lasted a little bit longer, from 975 to about 607 BC, when they were taken away into exile. Now, the nation of Judah didn't dissolve the way that Israel did. They were actually allowed to come back after their exile in Babylon, but that's for a future study. In this chapter, we're going to talk about 4 kings, 2 in Judah, 2 in Israel. These kings reigned between 975 and 900 BC. And just so you know, if you go out and try to do specific dates on the divided kingdom, there's a lot of debate about it. A lot of historians think it's, one way or another. What's also hard about it is that sometimes the king's reigns overlap, or it's sometimes the case that there's questions about when the king's reign actually starts. If it says he reigns 18 years, but he reigns a partial year before that, do we count the partial year? Do we not count the partial year? So getting exact dating is pretty hard. And if you want to go down a long rabbit hole, you can check out all the historians and their writings if you want to create a very specific timeline. For this study being only a 5-minute study, I'm just going to use round numbers. For our characters, I mentioned that we're going to talk about 4 kings. We're going to talk about Abijam, the 2nd king of Judah, and Asa, the 3rd king of Judah after the nation divided. Nadab, he was the 2nd king of Israel after the nation divided, and then Baasha, the 3rd king of Israel. Now we can look at our map. After the nations of Israel and Judah divided, Jerusalem remained the capital of Judah, so the southern kingdom. Baasha reigned over Israel from a place called Tirzah, which is on the map north of Shechem. We're told in this chapter that he built up the city of Ramah, which is down towards his southern border. This was to stop Israelites from going to Judah. He's trying to stop immigration, basically. And then we are going to once again mention the high places. These were sites where sacrifices were offered to the gods, but these locations were not authorized by God himself. Seems like these high places were sometimes used to offer sacrifices to the true God of heaven. Other times they were used to offer sacrifices to pagan gods or idols or false gods. This chapter breaks down really nicely into the 4 kings that we discussed in our characters section. First up, the reign of Abijam in Judah in the southern kingdom, verses 1 through 8. Abijah became king after his father died. His father was Rehoboam. He reigned for 3 years, and he continued the sinful practices of his father. However, God allowed him to be on the throne for the sake of David and the promises that God had made to David's household. There was a civil war that happened during Rehoboam's time, and it continues on during the days of Abijam. Israel and Judah were constantly at war. Abijam's life is documented in additional detail in the book of the Chronicles of the Kings of Judah. Now to section number 2, and the 2nd king that we're going to talk about over the land of Judah, the reign of Asa in Judah, verses 9 through 24. So Asa took the throne of Judah after Abijah's short 3-year reign. He, quote, did what was right in the eyes of the Lord, as David his father had done. So he reversed things. He went back to God rather than moving further away from God. He did away with all of the idols that were in the land and with the cult prostitutes. He even went so far as to remove his own mother from being in the position of queen mother because she had made a, quote, abominable image for Asherah. Most historians think that Asherah was a pagan fertility goddess. One thing Asa should have done that he didn't, he failed to remove the high places from the land of Judah, but the Bible still goes on to describe him as a man whose heart was, quote, wholly given to the Lord. Asa had continual battles with the king of Israel. His name is Baasha. We'll talk about him in a little bit. When Baasha built up the city of Ramah to prevent his people in Israel from traveling south to Judah, Asa bribed the Syrians who lived north of Israel to come down and attack Israel. And he used the treasures from the temple to pay that bribe, or that mercenary price, basically. The Syrians accepted this. They came down and attacked Israel, and Baasha was forced to withdraw from Ramah, and he moved to Tirzah, which would kind of become the capital of the nation of Israel. In his old age, Asa is described as having been diseased in his feet. Don't know much else about it, just that is what 1 Kings tells us. He died and he was buried in Jerusalem. Jehoshaphat, Asa's son, reigned in his place. Those are our two kings of Judah. Now we need to talk about the two kings of Israel. First one, the reign of Nadab in Israel, verses 25 through 32. Nadab was the son of Jeroboam. He reigned over Israel after his father's death. He reigned for 2 years before this guy named Baasha of Issachar conspired against him and killed him and took the throne. Baasha killed all of Jeroboam's relatives in addition to killing Nadab. And this was a fulfillment of the prophecy that the prophet Ahijah had prophesied against Jeroboam's household in chapter 14, verse 10. Now, finally, our second king of Israel, Baasha, reigns in Israel, verses 33 through 34. We'll talk about him in the next chapter as well. Baasha reigned over Israel for 24 years. He took the throne in Asa's third year, this Asa of Judah. The text says this about him. He, quote, did what was evil in the sight of the Lord. So in Judah, we have one good king, Asa. In Israel, so far, we have a track record of just a bunch of bad dudes. And for our application today, I want to return to Asa, the guy who turned things around, at least for a while, in Judah. Here's the application. A person is not doomed by their upbringing or the influences of their youth. You don't have to repeat the generational sins of your family. After the wicked latter years of Solomon's reign, Rehoboam's poor influence, and Abijam's godlessness, Asa flipped the script. He gave his heart wholly to God and began reforming the nation. So an application, if your family has a bad reputation and a past that's been stained by sin, determine to be like Asa, determine to change things. God will help you do it. He wants you to do it.